the light is lighter than the dark is dark. Some stories don't sparkle, they just sort of settle in beside you. Welcome to Firebird Conversations, a space for sacred stories and honest presence. I'm Deb Swift, and this is part one of a conversation with my friend, the Reverend Bill Hockey. He's a retired pastor, now serving the community of funeral homes in his area, often with families he's never met before. He's also a singer-songwriter and a proud member of his 12-step fellowship, a quiet mystic, and someone who knows what it means to show up, especially when things fall apart. In this episode, we talk about presence, recovery, and the kind of hope that doesn't need evidence. You'll hear a phrase that's stayed with me ever since. The light is lighter than the dark is dark. Let's step into the conversation. As I mentioned in our welcome, today's message is very different. It's a conversation with my friend and colleague, another retired pastor, the Reverend Bill Hockey. It is truly something special. It's just us. It's not a sermon. It's just talking between two friends, right? And in this first part, Bill shares how his early experiences with faith shaped him, both the harm and the holy, and how he eventually found a spiritual home in places like recovery circles and grief work. It's a journey many of us know in our bones, letting go of what no longer holds and holding fast to what still matters. So take a deep breath and let's step into this sacred conversation together. Again, my apologies for any uneven editing, but we will begin now as we began that day, walking into his home, down the stairs into his cellar, and into this amazing recording studio that he built with his own hands during COVID. Join us.
I would spend every hour, all my time down here if I could. I have the dogs, and I have the funeral work, and time with Sue. So, probably 4 hours a day, maybe.
Yeah.
Depending.
It's like me with Firebird. Well, how about if I open us with just a little prayer here,
sure.
and then we'll get started. All right. Holy creative source, may this space be held with gentle hands. May the words that rise be true, even when this surprises us, or maybe especially when it surprises us, and may laughter find its way in and silence as well. May the stories we share and the ones we carry quietly be honored here as part of something holy and human, because we ask, Spirit of Wisdom, that you meet us where we are, and let this be enough for however you wish to use it. Amen. So I sent you some questions this morning. I don't know if you had a chance. Did you look at your email?
I looked at them. They're profound questions.
Yeah, well, I don't expect we're going to cover them all, but did you have one or two that really spoke to you?
I didn't.
Okay.
I mean, I read them all, and I thought, wow, that's a lot of questions. That's more work at the end of the day than I do in a lifetime.
That's because I'm newly retired. I haven't found my flow yet. I'm still going at the other pace.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. I'm just going to pick one from the different sections of what I sent you. When did you first fall in love with spirit or with the mystery of it all?
Oh, I think that was right from the beginning. I think as a little boy, I grew up moved by spirit. I grew up in a fundamentalist home, very holy roller-esque, yeah, and very intrusive and profoundly disturbing for me. I spent a lifetime finding a way out of that, but I've also spent a lifetime enjoying the gifts of that. Because in there was a great love for the Creator, for the Lord, as we referred to it then, and continues in me today, not in those words, not in, but in that same way. There's a moving in my heart to want to be close to God. I mean, I could never pull off the fundamentalist thing.
What do you mean?
Well, we would have a revival meeting, and I would walk up and get saved up front and give my heart to the Lord, and then walk out the church and walk home because we lived close to the church. And I'd stub my toe and say, "Damn it!" And then I wasn't saved anymore.
Didn't last long. Got it.
I don't think that was it. I think my heart was always with the Creator. It was this little game that people were putting on that I felt obligated to play into.
Yeah. I was about to ask you the follow-up question to all that you were saying about your life growing up. And follow-up question for me then is, well, when did you realize, and maybe it was from the beginning, when did you realize the church didn't say it all for you, or it wasn't speaking meaningful language to you anymore?
Well, it's a process. And I went to a seminary that was very conservative, went to Gordon Conwell.
Oh.
And, but that was a logical step for me away from the fundamentalism to something that was more broadly conservative, and chose there to be a Presbyterian, which even more broad. And although I saw myself as part of the evangelical Presbyterian wing of which doesn't really exist anymore, it was a process of realizing that the belief structures that I grew up with weren't honest for me. And it was all about proving. It was all about truth testing. It was all about finding a way to say that I'm right and the rest of the world's wrong. And that didn't seem honest. I didn't even see it that way. It was just like a movement away. And then when I became full-fledged alcoholic, my suffering and pain was enough to make me realize that a lot of my core beliefs just didn't work. But never did I lose that core passion that was instilled in me in the community of faith as a boy. This is something I think it's so important to realize, that even the worst experiences sometimes help us.
Right.
And that love for God, that early love for Jesus, in my case, came as a child. Now, I get really nervous the way people talk about Jesus today, but as a child, that was precious and very important. And so that is in me from childhood. I think it's profoundly important how our early childhood experiences influence us. So,
what makes you nervous about it today, Bill?
Because words and phrases are used as a way to place people in political categories, or idealistic categories. There's a new advertisement on TV, it says Jesus really knows us.
Oh, I've seen it.
I can't. That's not the phrase, but I just shiver inside because I don't think that's the Jesus that was a first century Jesus as I understand it today. and it's all appealing to a community that frankly scares me to death. That is invested in affluence, or mostly in power, in controlling the thought patterns of this current world, and so the evangelical community that doesn't suit me at all. Yeah, on an advanced degree in Hebrew poetry, I was analyzing the book of Hosea around reader response theory and creating all sorts of images, all sorts of ideas related to that theme, and that just blew up a lot inside of me. After that, I felt free to believe different things and go in different directions.
Explain just briefly what reader's response theory is.
It's the idea that readers create texts. So instead of always chasing after authorial intent, so what the author intended just becomes an interesting approach to literature, as well as other approaches, rather than the only approach to literature is wrong.
Almost, for me, listening to you, and from the little about it, I've read not much, but it feels to me as if it's assuming that the authors of anything, not just scripture, but anything, are creating a milieu in which the energy of their writing can live on its own.
Right. And that there's some noble, it's noble to look at their meaning as, first of all, we don't know what they meant. I mean, all we can do is guess what they meant. Right. I mean, I think we can see pretty clearly sometimes what they meant, but it's as though that is the only way to read things. I think of today politically, I mean, who cares what the founders meant when they wrote the Constitution? What does it mean today?
Yeah.
That is what this is about.
Well, and that's the argument going on with the Supreme Court, isn't it?
Exactly. And so we're going back to say that there's an authoritative way of saying what the originators meant. And first of all, to me, that's undiscoverable. I don't think it's possible to gain that. I mean, just in the same way as history, I have a strange view of history. I mean, all history to me is recollection. Yeah. It just is the way it is, Deb. I mean, you can't talk about history and ignore the Native American thing. And of course we can say to ourselves, well, that wasn't as important as the white European reality. Oh, well, who says?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, so that's kind of an intellectual thing. So I did that for a long time, and it's in many ways the intellectual part paved the way for me to open up the emotional and spiritual part of me.
Where are you with that now? You know, where are you? I don't want to lump together necessarily spirit and religion and church and all of those words, but where are you on your journey? How would you describe where you are?
I saw that in the questions. I don't know. We don't attend church. Sue and I haven't for a couple of years. We just don't see the need. I think we might, if we could find a church here that worked for us. I stopped attending church probably 3 years ago, and the only time I miss it is when I feel guilty about not going. Honest to God.
Yeah. No, I get it.
That's honest.
It is honest.
And I was saying, I don't belong here.
Where do you belong? Or do you belong?
I belong in the great fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think that's where I identify spiritually more than any other place, and that's where my home is.
What about it is drawing you home? What makes home for you?
Well, I think the ability to speak about matters of the heart, matters of faith, without reservation. I can always give them the disclaimer that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ, but you don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's just who I am. Your path to faith may be very different, and that's
right.
wonderful. And I can be useful, and it is a pathway that pays attention to the present moment, which to me is the center of spirituality, is an attention to what is happening now. In many ways, I'm a phenomenologist. I'm a person that moves from phenomena to spirit. I mean, I understand things from the actual things that happen in this world and extrapolate what I think is important and real. And so I'm always looking at events, at things that happen and saying, what is the meaning of that? How does that structure my belief? How does that inform who I am and what the world is about? I mean, this is Husserl, philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the basis of that. I'm moving around. Yeah. So
what's the biggest thing you've learned from this experience with all of them?
I've learned the importance of ritual. I've learned how I've learned about myself, that I have that gift of empathy, and that it's tremendously rewarding to help people remember their loved one and to give thanks to the Creator for the gift of life in some way, even with somebody that's disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
The most difficult ones that I do are the where there's been abuse in the family,
sure.
or when there's a murder, or when somebody died who was just an asshole.
Yeah.
And that's pretty rare.
So what do you believe now?
Well, that's a big question, isn't it? In many ways, it's what I don't believe.
We'll start there.
Yeah, no, I believe that the light is lighter than the dark is dark. I say that all the time.
Mm.
And so I believe that the pendulum swings toward light, using Martin's idea of the pendulum swinging or leaning toward the light. The dark is very dark, but the light is lighter than the dark is dark. I believe in salvation.
What does that mean to you?
I believe that there's a turning to God often early in life or later in life, or some time where we turn our face toward a Creator and open our heart initially. But I also believe in many conversions.
Mm-hmm.
To me, in my experience, it's not every week, it's not every time, it's not every time I open a book or say wow or whatever. There are times and seasons in life where we experience a conversion, where something shifts or something happens or something opens up. And sometimes it's marked by an illness or a great event, sometimes not. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a new period. Retirement,
mm-hmm.
for me, has been a conversion. I've changed. I realize that. Now, have I changed a whole lot? Probably not. What Murray Bowen taught us, that people don't change. And I kind of buy that once we are who we are, we are who we are. But what he also discovered, I mean, the Bowen Institute discovered that if people change just a little bit, everything
changes the whole system.
Everything changes, yeah.
Right.
So it's not about moving a mountain, it's about moving an inch of sand, or, it's an inch of sand. It's So, and I think that's what those conversions are. Often they're just little movements that rock our foundations and change us. We think we're changing a lot, but I'm probably the same old person I always was.
Thank you for sitting with us today. I hope that in that conversation, something was stirred within you, a memory or a question or a kind of longing or maybe an affirmation that you're not alone or that your journey isn't so weird after all, and maybe there was an identification with something that we talked about. I hope you realize that you do fit in here at Firebird Spirit. Next week, we'll be back with Bill for part 2. There was a lot of stuff covered, and Bill and I will continue our conversation about the quiet ways that people change and the many conversions that we experience in life. How even the smallest shift in spirit can ripple through everything around us. These are powerful times in Earth's history, friends. So let's focus on our relationship with what is greater than we are and what I call the allness. May you find that the Spirit is meeting you right where you are and come to trust that, just as Bill did. Give it a try, I think you'll find it showing up in your questions and in your story and in your becoming. Because that's what's happening in the world, and that's what God is calling us to. And may that light, yes, the one that's lighter than even the darkest dark, may that be with you now and always. Amen. Thanks for listening to this first part of our conversation. Part 2 goes even deeper into grief, into raw prayer and resurrection where you'd least expect it. If this stirred something in you, let it ripple, share it with a friend, or just let it sit beside you. We'll see you next time.